I'm Blair Best. It's Friday here on The Story, and tonight we've got a deep dive on an issue that is sure to spark a dinner table debate. Should prayer be a part of local government meetings? Plus, Target dumped DEI initiatives, and so has a local federal agency, moving quickly following a new executive order from President Trump. But first, a new wrinkle in a cold case from our region dating back to the early 1970s. It's our big story tonight. We start in Clackamas County tonight, where more than 50 years ago, a 17-year-old girl went missing. Her name was Rita Jolly. The case has gone cold over the last half-century, but now investigators are trying to find out if there are any connections to a notorious killer who operated in the state of Washington around the time of Rita's disappearance. Here's Ashley Grams with the first story in a new series here on KGW, Still Searching.
I think a lot of Rita's artwork was really full of symbolism, and it was really of the time.
This artwork offers a glimpse into the mind of the 17-year-old who created it more than 5 decades ago.
I believe it's my sister, or at least a representation of her.
Touching these pages might be the closest Jill Jolly ever gets to understanding her sister Rita. The young artist disappeared in 1973.
She was different in a lot of ways. She was very artistic, very sensitive. After she disappeared, of course, we went through her bedroom and found all of these writings.
Rita Jolly was last seen by her family on the evening of June 29, 1973. She left her parents' home in West Linn on a walk.
I got a phone call the next morning, very early the next morning, from my mother, just desperate, and she said Rita didn't come home last night.
West Linn police and Clackamas County Sheriff's deputies launched a search for Rita.
She was walking along the side of the road towards West Linn. That was last Friday night about 9 o'clock.
This is film from the KGW archive.
You've mentioned that she took walks.
The Jolly family spoke to us a few days after Rita disappeared.
From all of the appearances and indications, this was merely an evening walk. And we feel that it's a virtual certainty that she's been a victim of foul play.
We thought at the time that if she had been kidnapped, that the best thing that we could do would be to publicize her disappearance as much as possible.
My daughter was not the kind.
About 2 weeks after this interview, her father wrote to the Oregonian saying, "I cannot describe to you the depth of our heartbreak."
And there were some sightings of her. The last sighting that I think was kind of proven was at 8:30 when she was coming up Sunset Avenue. These are pictures of Rita that I found in the case file. Yeah.
Kim Timius with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office is still investigating Rita's disappearance all these years later.
You know, even clear down at the coast, these people thought this hitchhiking girl could be her, and they actually talked to her, but it wasn't her.
While she says those tips back in 1973 didn't bring investigators any closer to finding Rita, detectives did find out that she hitchhiked.
But the walking and the hitchhiking is big to me. Oh, yeah.
Today, Timius leads the investigation and brings with her renewed hope of a breakthrough in the decades-old case. Right now, she's taking a close look at suspected serial killer Warren Forrest, although the sheriff's office stops short of calling him a suspect. Forrest is serving 2 life sentences for killing a 20-year-old woman and a 17-year-old woman in the early 70s, and is suspected in the disappearances or deaths of several other women in Clark County.
The first thing I wanted to know was the timeline.
Timius met with Doug Mass and the Clark County cold case team in early January to talk more about Rita's case and review Forrest's history.
We've got 2 victims in 1972, and we got a bunch in 1974, and so what was happening in 1973? He didn't decide just to shut down for a year.
So I'll get some ideas about what they're doing, and I would love to give answers. I won't say closure because I don't think there could ever be closure, but to give them some peace.
As decades have passed, Jill's had time to consider every possibility, thinking back to the weeks leading up to Rita's disappearance and wondering if Rita just left on her own.
So she was the last one at home, and trying to deal with her life and the teenage angst, and and feeling different. I think over time I've tended to gravitate more towards the idea that Rita did run away, voluntarily left, although I have a hard time believing she's still alive and hasn't contacted us.
But none of these avenues have led to answers.
Yeah, it's really hard to know what to do with that grief when you don't know what happened.
And Jill realizes she may never know what happened to her sister.
I wish that we'd all had more time with her. You know, I wish the world had had more time with her.
Ashley joins me now. Ashley, you've been following this for the past several months. Tell us, what stood out to you about Rita?
Well, I feel really grateful that I got to learn a lot about her from her sister. Her sister was very open with me. She loved animals. She had a horse named Sugar, and she spent her senior year of high school at Clackamas Community College. She didn't always get along very well with the other kids in school, and so she took a different route. Her sister said she really enjoyed taking ceramics and creative writing, and her sister found a lot of her poetry and writings after she disappeared. And we have one more piece of this interview to share with her sister, and I think it illustrates a lot of her grief.
And I remember thinking, well, we'll grow up, you know, and be more alike. And that we'll grow up and have families together, and we'll be able to share recipes over the phone, and our children can grow up as cousins, and we'll have good times together. You know, I remember thinking that we'd have those years, and to have them just be gone in an instant like that you don't have them. I've spent, you know, my whole life wishing I had a sister.
That's really heartbreaking. You can feel that grief that you were talking about there. Okay, so law enforcement, talk to me about that piece. Any takeaways there?
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is that they don't give up, right? 50 years later, these detectives are still looking for answers. And that detective that you heard from Kim, our interview, is actually pretty emotional. She said she has 2 kids herself, and she can't imagine what this would have been like, what this has been like for the Jolly family for the last 5 decades. Now, the other piece of this is I did not know that they were partnering up with the Clark County Sheriff's Office when I first started looking into Rita's case. That developed a lot more recently.
So talk to us about Still Searching, the series. What can we expect? Where'd the idea come from?
Right, I mean, we're there the next day after something happens, right? We're there on someone's worst day, but these stories continue long after that, right? Families spend a long time searching for answers, and so we want to give them a place to share that.
Ashley Grams, thank you so much. Now, if there's a cold case in your community that you'd like Ashley and team to look into and potentially shed some light to try and find answers, let us know. The email address is right there on your screen, stillsearching@kgw.com. Federal agencies are quietly shutting down diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs, following an executive order from President Trump, who campaigned heavily on his anti-DEI views. One local example shedding DEI, the Bonneville Power Administration. Investigative reporter Kyle Eboshi has the story.
It didn't take long. Within days of President Trump's order, the Bonneville Power Administration erased all mention of its DEI program. It's as if it didn't exist. Earlier this week, President Trump ordered federal agencies to move quickly to end DEI programs. Federal employees working in DEI offices would be placed on administrative leave effective immediately. It's not clear if or how many BPA employees were placed on administrative leave following President Trump's crackdown. A spokesperson declined to comment. What's interesting is how swiftly the changes occurred. For example, this was posted online. It's an organizational chart of the BPA showing their top management. Included in that, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Office. Well, one day later, that name was gone. And when you look on the BPA website for any type of mention of its DEI program, this is what you find: page not found. It no longer exists. It's the same with many other federal agencies, such as U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. When you look for DEI information, sorry, we can't find that page. Same with U.S. Coast Guard, page not found. Also, Bureau of Land Management. There's no mention whatsoever of its DEI programs. The repercussions of President Trump's order goes far beyond federal agencies. Federal contractors and those that rely on federal funding say they're still trying to figure out the impact it may have on their DEI programs. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
Well, up next, a story you won't see anywhere else. We're taking you inside a Clark County Council meeting recently where a debate over the opening invocation or prayer had some residents fired up. Should prayer be involved in government meetings? Well, that's next when the story returns. Across the Columbia, the Clark County Council has been dealing with some controversy over the past few weeks. It's not about common topics you may think of, homelessness, transportation, stuff like that. It's drama over prayer at their public government meetings. The council often starts their meeting with a prayer. Here's the meeting from this week.
You are invited to join me in this prayer. Lord God, we honor you as the creator of the universe, the sustainer of life, and the redeemer of souls. Reveal to us your righteousness and your justice, and may we know your love and mercy.
The council calls that an invocation. But earlier this month, a newly elected councilor, Will Fuentes, suggested that maybe a government meeting should not start with religious prayer. You won't see his face in this video because of the way the council videos are recorded, but you'll hear his voice and the voices of other councilors who had some questions.
I'd like to consider us removing it from these council meetings, as I don't believe that it's necessary. I just don't believe that we should be mixing business with, with religious prayers or anything like that.
Well, the Pledge of Allegiance includes some God.
Which we should probably consider removing as well.
Well, that's part of the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're all Americans.
I completely understand that. For time's sake and to be more efficient and to ensure that we're here to conduct business, I don't believe that these two items need to be part of the council meetings.
The reaction on the council was mixed. Council Chair Sue Marshall said she had some discomfort.
I find it awkward to have prayer in a public meeting like this, and not all jurisdictions have prayer, but it's not required that it is prayer. It could be a poem, it could be a land acknowledgement, it could be a number of things.
Other councilors say they found the prayer odd and unnecessary.
I think Pledge of Allegiance, I believe that that's an important part of it. But as a Christian, it's not important for me to have an invocation of any type, but there are ways I think to do it where you're talking about greater being or greater purpose or something like that.
Now, Council President Marshall tells us the invocation has been part of council meetings in Clark County since 2013. She says it's not just for Christian prayer, but it is open to any religion or organization, or it can simply be a moment of silence. But several councilors and the county manager admitted it's usually a Christian prayer. Fuentes, the councilor who brought up the matter in the first place, says that's what he's seen.
It's always been a prayer. Right. And which is fine. If people want to pray, I mean, that's completely up to them. I think people have the right to believe in what they want to believe and pray as much as they want. But I believe that we're here in a government building where we separate religion and we separate, government. And so I don't think that this should be part of our weekly process.
Okay, so that's sort of the background here regarding this issue, because during the council's meeting the week after those comments you just heard, the public comment was fierce.
Councilor Fuentes, in my understanding, what you are stating is that you are anti-beliefs, you are anti-faith, you are anti-Christ, you are anti-God.
At several points, the council chair had to step in during personal attacks against Fuentes.
I came here today because we heard about the new guy on the panel here, and he doesn't believe in God. He doesn't believe in the pledge.
Okay, let me just stop you right there. No accusations.
Well, isn't that what he said?
Be civil. That is not what was said. Just keep it to the agenda items. Just keep it.
Well, you're going to make a agenda on whether you're going to get rid of the pledge, and you're going to get.
Speak to that, but it's making personal attacks on any one of the counselors.
Okay, that person, by the way, went on to explain that she believed the council needs prayer because glands connecting people to God are being blocked by, wait for it, fluoride in the water.
And because they're so into fluoride around here, people are out of touch that they don't have a spiritual connection to God because their brain is fluoride. It's calcified from fluoride.
So there's that. Several people said that if council stopped doing the invocation, God would take revenge on Clark County in the form of natural disasters. But others said the prayer is a way to set good intentions for government meetings.
For generations, prayer has been a part of our nation's heritage, a moment to pause, reflect, and seek guidance from, in my case, our Heavenly Father. It's not just tradition. It's a reminder that the work you do here impacts real lives and that wisdom, humility, and unity should guide your decisions.
Now, after public comment, Councilor Fuentes apologized for suggesting the Pledge of Allegiance be removed.
And I want to start with apologizing for even considering of removing the Pledge of Allegiance. As a community member said, I stuck my foot in my mouth. I recognize that. It was a big mistake on my part.
But despite walking that back, he doubled down on wanting to take another look at the invocation.
Removing the invocation is my commitment to inclusivity and the commitment that I made to my voters, to my constituents. Public meetings, in my opinion, are intended to serve all members of the community, and I am simply advocating to a neutral start to the meetings. Besides Washougal and Clark County, jurisdictions across the county don't have invocations, which I presume it is to maintain a focus on government business in a way that is inclusive to everyone.
But in the end, there were not enough votes on council to remove it. So the practice will continue, at least for now. All right, we are dying to know what you think. Should Clark County keep religious prayer in meetings, or should they get rid of it? Would you want something like that during council meetings in your community? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Well, coming up next on The Story, Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino joins us with a look at what to expect this weekend. And he's also answering some of your questions, from different clouds to stars in the sky, when The Story returns. All right, Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino joins us now. Matt, what do people need to know about the weather this weekend from the coast to the Cascades?
And all over the state, Blair, it is going to be clear, but it's going to be cold and it's going to be windy in some areas too. So for the valleys, not that windy, but from, after midnight till about 9 a.m., we'll be dropping below freezing. So plan on, that's the windshield scraping icon. See that? I know it looks more looks more like a putty knife, but it's our windshield scraper. So there will be frost on the windshields, frost on some walkways. So look out for slippery spots as you're heading out early on Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Sunday morning will actually be a little bit colder. Now, there will be wind, of course, centered in the Columbia River Gorge, but spilling out into the Portland area. That's a gust of 22 tomorrow afternoon. Not super strong west of I-205, but in the gorge, the gusts will reach 45, 50 miles an hour. Also, it's going to be windy up in the Cascades too. So if you're skiing, get ready for that. So cold mornings right on into midweek, cold east winds tomorrow, and frost on the windshields and the walkways, Blair.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so being from Maine, I should have one of those scraper things, but it broke. I haven't gotten a new one.
What?
You're going to hate me. I've been using a coffee cup lid to get the frost off my windshield every morning.
I am going to gift you an ice scraper so
Really?
that you're better prepared.
Been a time. Okay, we got some viewer questions I want to read to you. Anne wrote to us earlier this week. She said, I would like to see the weather group tell us about the star or stars that are close to the moon on any given day. There's something in the sky that is bigger than a star, but I don't know what it is. It looks like a combination of stars. Matt, what do you got for us?
Blair, it's a great question because with all the clear sky, it was cold, but it's perfect for star watching and sky watching. So this is Mount Hood. Even though it's dark, you can see the stars out there, but we're looking north right here. The really great, wow, they almost look like the northern lights there, right? I think it was just the reflection off the groomers up on Mount Hood. If you look to the south and southeast, though, there are 4 planets visible with your naked eye. And if you have binoculars, you can see 2 more. But looking south-southeast, right on into early February, we've got Mars, we've got Jupiter, super bright. There's a bright star called Aldebaran next to it as well. And then Venus, also super bright. You can also see Saturn. So 4, Venus, Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter. And like I said, in the same part of the sky, if you have binoculars, you can also see Neptune and Uranus as well. So potentially 6 if you have binoculars. And it's going to continue right on into the early part of February. And again, we've got the clear sky. So it's looking good for star and planet watching.
That's super cool. Have you tried that app on the phone that you hold it up and it can, you know what I'm talking about?
I love that. Yeah, it's great. It shows you. It's a really good aid because it helps point out, oh, that's what that is, especially with the stars.
I can only ever find little Jupiter, I think. Or maybe it's big Jupiter. I don't know.
There's only one Jupiter.
Wait, what am I trying? Dipper. Wow.
Yeah.
You got me thinking planets. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. We want to show you this picture we got from a viewer. Kirsten asked, what forms a cloud like this one? She said this pic was taken from earlier this month from the Dalles.
Yeah, Blair, another great question and a great picture of the cloud. Thank you, Kirsten, for sending this in. It was on January 13th. And you know what? Kirsten wasn't the only one to see this cloud and send me a picture. There's that exact same cloud, right? This is from Lee Weinstein. It was on January 13th. Now, you can see Mount Hood. This is out near the Dalles. This is called a mountain wave cloud, and you really do need a mountain range to get these to form. I know it looks like a spaceship, right? Beam me up. But they're super fun. They're super cool, and what you need are strong winds crossing a mountain range just like the Cascades. So here's how that works. Here's your mountain range. If you get air flowing over the range, it sets up a wave pattern downstream. If you have the proper atmospheric configuration, you need an inversion to really set this up well. But everywhere there's a crest of the wave, you get the cloud forming if there's enough moisture in the atmosphere. And when you get those isolated clouds, it's because there's not a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, but there's a little bit in that layer. So you get these clouds forming, altocumulus typically, forming at the crest of every wave. And sometimes you'll see these lined up hundreds of miles downstream in a line, and you see it from the satellite imagery like that. But just a great picture of one of my favorite clouds, the mountain wave clouds.
Wow, very cool. Well, Matt, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on the show and all of your knowledge.
Always fun.
All right, folks. Well, that is the end of our show. Thank you so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. You can stream the story on your own schedule. Download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. I hope you have a great weekend. It is Friday. I'll see you right back here on Monday night at 6:30.